Okay, so today we are making the 5 out of 4 Pattern Company's Rikki sweatshirt, although I will be calling it the Wave Hoodie because that's what I've been calling it and what I've gotten used to. I did not really film much of an intro for this pattern when I was sewing it, so I just thought I would show you some of the possibilities of what you can make with this pattern from the 5 out of 4 website. Comes with lots of variations. It's really cool. Just a really unique design, and it is a quilted sweatshirt, but it's stretchy. So this was my first experience quilting stretchy patterns. And yes, you can make it for men too. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I've been using Procreate on my iPad to play around with this design based on the colors that I actually have because I am not going to buy any new fabric for this project. So this is a French terry from Mood that has a black backing on it, and I know what it's looking like on camera, but in person it's a lot more green. It definitely has more of a greenish teal. And then this is actually a stretch ponte from Serge Fabric Shop, and it's a lot darker in person than it's showing on the screen. And then I have, these are actually both the same color. This is a French terry in a mint color. I would say it's a little bit more green than it's showing on camera. And that's also from Serge Fabric Shop. And this is a really thick ribbed cotton knit. And actually the color on screen is pretty close to what it is in real life, probably a little bit lighter. So those are my greens that I have to work with, and blues. So I also have this purple from Serge Fabric Shop, and I would say the color is a little bit lighter in person, but pretty close to what you're seeing on the camera. And that's going to be kind of my main contrast, or it was. I also have some black French terry that I'm not sure about, so let me show you what I'm doing here. So I'm on Procreate on my iPad, and I'm just kind of playing around. I wanted to make this as ombre as possible, but I'm not really sure. So, and I kind of like the black in there as kind of the sea floor almost. So here's what it looks like with the purple. And so that's kind of fun. So the other option is leaving that as purple, and then I've got this really dark teal here. Trying to get the colors right on my iPad has been challenging. And so I'm not very proficient in Procreate. This is honestly the only thing I've learned to do, and I don't do it very well, as you can see. I'm not quite sure why I drag and drop it and it changed the outline to teal. I don't know. Instead of black. I guess it's more accurate because I'm not going to be having any black lines on the actual garment. So anyway, I think this might be my favorite version. I think I like this one the best. And I don't have any other fabric to really work with. So I'm really kind of stuck with this. The other thing that I could do is make the purple black. So let's see if it will be happy with me doing that. So that's also another option. It looks funny now that the outline is in green. So that's the other option, but to me that kind of looks more like, I don't know, two hands maybe instead of the wave. So I don't think I like the black. I think it's too much contrast for me personally. I like the purple. I definitely want this part of the wave to be the most prominent. So I think I'm going to go ahead and cut it out like this. So let me explain here quickly. I know I'm kind of prattling on. So this color, which is this ribbed knit, it's pretty thick. I think it's actually from Walmart back in the day, but I'm not 100% sure. It's been in my stash for a long time. That is meant to be this color here, and then the mint color. I keep tapping the fabric like that's going to focus on it. I'm sorry, it's been a day. A little brain foggy today. Anyway, this mint from Serge Fabric Shop, that's going to be this color here, as well as the hood. I think I will go ahead and make this bottom band in the same mint color, and this is going to be that dark Ponte, and I think it's the Papillo Ponte from Mood. And then we'll leave the purple up here. And I know this purple is not anywhere close to what this is. I'm not crazy about this tone of purple. It's got like almost a little bit too much of a gray undertone to it, but it's what I've got to work with. But let's talk logistics. Can you see all of the little pieces that go into this? Let me show you what they look like on the pattern. So I have 3 different triangle shapes and a little square. So based on this, I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do 1 of each color. So I need to cut out 4 of each of these, 1 in each color. So I've got my colors here. And I think for the back of this sweater hoodie, I'm going to go with the mint color because I have the most of it and it's my favorite color out of all of them. And yeah, let's use it up. I'm on a mission to use up more of my stash here. So this is going to be the purple, and I'm going to go ahead and put that there. This color is going to be that dark Ponte, and this is going to be the mint, and this is going to be the teal rib knit. So this one's just a mess because I have been wanting to make a hoodie in this color for a while, so let's get to cutting. All right, so I've got all of my little pieces cut out for the color blocked portion, and to be frank, it really doesn't look like much right now. This is supposed to be the little wave curling in. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on sewing. I'm going to start by sewing these 2 together and then these 2 together, and then those will get sewn together into a square, and we'll just continue out from there. Okay, I wanted to show you what I have been doing here. I have continued adding the pieces on, And first I sewed on this dark green piece, and then I added the purple, and I've been trimming the seam allowances as I go to keep everything nice and neat. So when I say that, let me just show you what I mean here. So I just sewed this blue piece on, and I'm just going to turn it over, and I'm just going to trim off the little corner piece here. And I'm going to do it on this side as well. Okay. So we're getting these nice clean seams here, and let's take this over to my sewing machine here. I could have done some type of really cool transition there for you, but yeah, just easier to keep it simple for right now. So we are going to just kind of finger press this down and give it a nice good clean press there with lots of steam. If you end up liking this process, I highly recommend that you try your hand at quilting. This is the first time that I've ever made quilted clothing. I'm used to making quilts, like quilts, regular quilts. Quilts in the typical traditional sense with quilting cotton. And it is very important that you steam each seam after you're done. Make sure you're pressing each seam before you go on. That's why it's a little bit of a tedious process, and it does take a while, but in order to get it to look nice and clean and neat, you want to make sure that you are pressing everything. And technically with the tailor's clapper, you're supposed to let it sit on the seam until all of the water evaporates, but I don't want to wait that long. And this side is not 100% even, but that's okay. I think it will be inside of the seam allowance, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to go back to the sewing machine and add on my little teal piece here. I'm going to sew this last piece on. As you can see, I have already sewn it, but it didn't quite line up as I wanted it to, so I am redoing it, and I might as well show you. Make sure that your points are matching up with the center seam here. Make sure everything lines up properly. So I'm just using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on here. All right, here we are, and I actually went ahead and trimmed up all of the sides just to even things out and make it a little bit easier for me when I am sewing. I didn't want any funky bulges. I will say I've probably made this a little bit difficult on myself by using fabrics of different stretch percentages and weights actually. So like these two are the exact same fabric, just different colors, as opposed to this is a less stretchy, slightly heavier ponte. Yeah, it's a little bit, it's got a little bit more weight than these two French terries, but this is a fairly thin ribbed knit. It is much thinner than the, well, it's much thinner than the ponte, a little bit thinner than the French terries. So what I'm going to do to counteract all of that is once this quilted portion is all sewn up, I'm going to cut out a piece of probably this thicker ponte, maybe one of the French terries, definitely not this thin ribbed knit. And I'm going to cut out a piece in the whole size of the quilting and attach it to the back, and then just stitch in the ditch to quilt over it and make it one big piece, just to make sure that the fabric doesn't get distorted when I'm wearing it. Anyway, so I am now seeing why adding these lines in was a good idea, because I'm going to start adding in my next set of triangles here. And I know you can barely see it, but this way with the little crisscrosses, I kind of have a little bit of a guidance here. There's my little moose. Hi. I can see where I need to place the fabric to make sure that everything is centered. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on my next round, and I will be putting them together in the same way as this first set of triangles. Just a random moment to appreciate how cute my doggy is. Moose, you want to say hi to everybody? Want to say hi? You're so cute. Okay, you gotta go down, okay? You gotta sit down. No? All right, so I have gone ahead and squared this up. So I have this pattern piece, which is basically the pattern piece that would be used if you are not doing the color blocking. And I just went ahead and squared this up so that it matches that same size, and it's pretty good. It's definitely a little bit uneven in some spots. This fabric stretched a lot during sewing, and even with lots of ironing and steaming, it still got pretty stretched out. So from here, I am going to cut out a piece of fabric that matches this size and basically quilt it onto here and give myself a nice clean back here. I just feel like this is probably going to, I don't know, get caught possibly when I'm putting it on. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I will be back shortly. Right, here's where we are at, and this pattern is labeled very nicely. All of the pieces have a letter designating the sewing order. So this is A, it will get sewn first, then B, then C, and lastly D. And I have actually already gone ahead and made the sleeve for this side so that can be attached, and I did make the thumb hole cuffs. So I will show you using this sleeve how I'm going to do that. So I didn't fully quilt it, mostly because I got tired of the thread changes. And so the part with the darker green, I did not quilt that part, but it feels pretty solid to me. And I definitely like having the back nice and clean. Here we are. It is so cool looking. It really does look like a wave. I like it. So I did the back in this color of the French terry, so I'm going to go ahead and attach that, and I'm going to attach the sleeve because this is the right sleeve since I already finished it, and I will show you how I'm going to make this sleeve for this side, which I had originally intended to cut out of this fabric, but since it's so thin and stretchy, I don't want that much of the garment in that fabric, so I cut it out in this color, so it's going to be a little more color blocked. So we'll see how that looks. I will also go ahead and sew up the hood, which is in the purple shade. All right, so I'm sewing up the hood, and I don't know, it's kind of boring to me. Just being all plain one color for something that's got so much color blocking on it. So what I decided to do is add a stripe along the seam here. And what I am doing is I cut out a 3-inch wide piece of the mint French terry, and then I ironed on 1/2-inch wide featherweight interfacing on each side and ironed those in. And then I put a little line here down the center, and I'm going to sew that onto the hood here, and hopefully that will give it a little bit more of a pop. So for the hood, I'm just edge stitching, and I have a little mark underneath here that I've made to help me follow along with the seam line. I'm gonna do my best to show you. It's really hard getting the camera angle right so you can see. Let me just line this up. All right, so I am just very carefully edge stitching. I'm using a longer straight stitch because I don't know about you, but I don't stretch the hood on my hoodies, so I'm not going to worry about using a zigzag stitch on it. Oops, sorry about that. And again, I'm just following along with my little line on the inside of my stripe here. So I'm going to continue that all the way to the back of the hoodie, and then I will also finish it up on this side. This will get tucked under, and I'll do the same thing on this side. All right, let's talk about the thumb hole cuff pieces here. I know that it looks a little bit intimidating if you haven't made one before, but it's super, super easy. So let me just show you what we're gonna do. I have 3 main pattern pieces, technically 4, because there are 2 pieces here that are mirror images, and I've got everything right sides together. So I am going to sew along this curve here with a zigzag stitch or stretch stitch, whatever you've got. Serger, that works too. And I'm also going to sew along this curve here. And then for this cuff piece, I'm going to give it a nice press so that I get a real crisp line right here. That's going to help us in our last step. Okay, moving on, I have sewn up that curve on both sides here and turned it right side out. Give it a good press. So what we're going to do is take these 2 pieces like this, the folded piece on the top. So this is the piece that's going to be going like this on your thumb. Please excuse my poor thumb hand. I made a pizza and I was a little bit too tired and not paying attention and gave myself some really nice burns. So yeah, okay. Anyway, basically what we want to do is match up so that these are the same size as our cuff here with the folded edge up here. And I am going to measure where that sits. So that's the overlap. That's the amount of overlap that we're doing here. Is we want it to be the same length as our cuff, and we're going to baste on either side here at that length, and then after that we will put this inside of here. I'll show you. All right, now that I have basted on the sides here, I'm going to slip the thumb hole portion inside here, and I want my folds to be matching up. and I want my raw edges to be matching up because this is the part that's going to attach to your sleeve. So put that in there and then just kind of sandwich that in there. And I'm going to sew with a zigzag stitch. Make sure that's nice and lined up. Put a couple clips on there. If it doesn't line up just perfectly, you can stretch it a little bit, because remember, this is a nice stretchy fabric, so we can always, if you need to stretch it just slightly to get it to fit, we can always go back and steam it afterwards. Up here, at this part where we have our two folds, you want to make sure that those are nice and snug and you're not ending up with a bunch of like this kind of excess fabric up at the top for the outer portion here, because you will end up with things not quite lining up once you turn them right side out. So just make sure that that part is nice and snug in there. And I'm going to sew with a zigzag stitch on there. And then afterwards, I'm going to bunch this part up a little bit, kind of bring that together and sew the same thing on this side. It is a little bunchy, so it can be a little bit awkward to sew, but you're basically going to do the same thing on this side and sew with a zigzag stitch along there. And then that will leave our raw edges open down here to turn it inside out. So I'm going to go ahead and sew along this side and this side. Okay, so here's what it looks like before I turn it inside out. So you can see this fabric in the middle is very bunchy. That's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. So don't let it stress you out. Okay, so once I go ahead and turn this inside out, or right side out, we've got our nice little thumb hole cuff and my basting thread that I did not trim. So it's gonna go on like that. Pretty cool. So basically what we're going to do is line up, let's see if I can remember this correctly. So we're going to line up one of the seams with the arm sleeve here. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is sew the sleeve, and the way that the armhole cuff is going to go is basically this seam is going to get lined up with the sleeve seam, and then the other seam is going to be on the top of the sleeve. So that way your thumb hole is going to be nicely positioned here and not on the back of your hand. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. All right, so the cuff is attached to the sleeve. The sleeve is not yet attached to anything, so I'm going to go ahead and attach it to the hoodie. I did want to show you what I was talking about things not lining up correctly. See that little bit of excess fabric there, right at the top there? Yep, that's what I mean. If you get a little bit of excess fabric there, it's not going to line up correctly. I'm not going to worry about it because anybody who's looking that closely at my thumb hole cuffs is either going to be a fellow sewist or somebody who's too close to me. So I'm not going to worry about it, but I'm going to go ahead and attach my sleeve, and I'm going to attach the hood now that I have the stripe sewn on it. So I've got the stripe on it, and I'm going to finish sewing up this little channel here for the tie, and then I will attach the hood to the hoodie, and then we are just about done. I need to also sew up the band here. I'm just using that really lightweight red knit, and then I will attach that as well. And we're getting pretty close to the end. So I'm editing this about 8 or 9 months after I sewed it. Yeah, it's been living in my phone for a long time. And I don't have any more footage, so I just thought I'd show you the finished hoodie. It came out really cute. I love it. I wore it to the beach. This is how the original photo looked, so I got pretty close to it. I really recommend this pattern. It is really cute and really easy, and we had a great time sewing it. Thank you for following along with us. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you later. Bye!